Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents our MLB DFS pitcher pool for Tuesday, April 11th, 2017. I'm your host, Nick Valinchak, better known as Nick from CWE on all of your favorite daily fantasy sites, and I am here to break down my top 3 pitching options based on FanDuel pricing. I'm going to try to give it to you in a couple of different tiers so you're not just up at the top or at the bottom. This is actually a really interesting slate. I researched it a little bit prior to writing my article. Basically wanted to look at all the things that jumped out at me. What jumped out at me is a lot of uncertainty with our pitching options tonight. There's a lot of guys, and definitely depending on which sites you play on, that can make things pretty difficult to navigate through this evening. So I'm going to take my best shot. This is not a pitching slate I like. Again, they're basically red flags, and you're not going to have too many days where like 5 pitchers just jump off the page at you and there's no red flags on any of them. So I do apologize if I'm giving you that impression and you're new to playing daily fantasy, but this is just a situation where there's enough that I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do that. So anyway, let's get things started with Cole Hamels, the top option on the board, $9,500 on FanDuel. He's pretty similarly priced on DraftKings, if I remember correctly. So basically the deal with DraftKings is they're just pricing up all the guys that have high strikeout rates because they're not stupid and they know that's how points are created. So that's how you can have big games if everything pans out. So naturally Hamels, with a pretty decent strikeout rate over the course of his career, in a matchup that is pretty reasonable. I mean, I think he's got a very good opportunity of suppressing the left-handed bats in the lineup. Really, quite honestly, the only guy I'm really that concerned about is Mike Trout. And I don't think you're going to not play a guy that you're only worried about one guy being able to really get into. So Hamels is a guy definitely on my radar tonight. He's got big potential. He's in a very, very good park for pitching. So all things considered, all signs point to Hamels being a relatively good option. Moving down from there, let's talk Jameson, Tailon, $8K on FanDuel. Again, I think he's relatively close in price on DraftKings. Going to be interesting to see how people react with a Pittsburgh pitcher after Tyler Glasnow just completely imploded last night, and that was a tragedy. I was unfortunately texting one of my friends during the day, and he mentioned that he was playing MLB baseball. I doubt he'll see this video, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, and nor would you know, but he was telling me, like, on FanDuel, like, yeah, I think I'm definitely looking into Jameson, Tailon. And I tried to tell him, like, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but you're not looking into Jameson, Tailon. You saw that the price was $4,400. You knew that you could put anybody you wanted into your lineup if that was the case, but you're dealing with the fact that you're not the only one who thought that. Like, the vast majority of people in daily fantasy thought that. In my double-ups, he was like 60% owned, and needless to say, right off the rip, I'm cashing tonight. Like, I'm not saying before the game started. I'm saying after his, meltdown, there was no question in my mind that, and then just making the case that, like, $4,400, just an asinine price. You knew everyone was going to be on him. Did he really have that much more upside than someone like Jared Eichhoff? That's who I used. He had less than 2% ownership, and he and John Lester had the highest, point total of the day. But I digress. I think that there will be some of a trickle-down effect on Tailon tonight. I'm not there. I think Taillon's a much better pitcher of the two. He isn't being delayed between starts like Glasnow. It had been quite a bit of time since Glasnow pitched. I think Cincinnati is still a team that can be targeted. Tailon showed a really strong first effort, and with his first game this year being pitched in his home park. I think he'll come back with another good outing. The only guys I'm really on are going to be Hamilton and Peraza, just because Francisco Cervelli has no ability to throw out base runners. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Next up, probably the biggest price differential on the day between sites. Let's talk Robbie Ray, 7,500 on FanDuel. I think he's like 9,200 on DraftKings. Because he's a pretty decently high strikeout pitcher. In fact, I think he might be. He is the highest K9 on the slate today. Behind him, Drew Pomerantz, then Cole Hamels. Drew Pomerantz, then Tyler Skaggs, then Cole Hamels, then Gio. So naturally, that's why he's priced there. Unfortunately, he has one of the worst whips. He's a completely unpredictable pitcher. He's pretty bad when it comes to right-handed bats in terms of allowing a pretty decent fly ball rate and 37% hard contact. Not a thing you want to see, fortunately for us, and not for him, though. It does appear that Buster Posey may not play in this game after being hit in the head on Monday. It's too early to tell. I mean, he left the game, but it didn't appear that there was going to be like long-standing impact. But that's just a note. If he does miss, I mean, you're talking about Nick Hundley, and I like Nick Hundley, but the drop between Buster Posey and Nick Hundley is pretty considerable. I think we'd all have to agree with that. So it just takes one extra quality right-handed bat out of the lineup. I do not mind guys like Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford. They actually hit pretty decently against left-handed pitching. So, I mean, I do think there's some risk with it. I don't know that I can actually go this route on DraftKings where he's priced just like so unbelievably high, even in a pitcher's park. But on FanDuel where he's priced at, I think it makes sense to look at him in tournaments. So once again, our top 3 pitchers of the day: Cole Hamels, Jameson, Tailon, Robbie Ray. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com. Sign up for our MLB mailing list. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.